Hey everybody, Pumpkin here. Today I wanted to go over a recent leak that Burge gave us on one of the forum posts. So we all know that the December patch is coming. Well, December 4th we're going to be getting some balance changes. This will be the first real balance patch that CDPR has done since Homecoming, other than the hotfix that we got about a week ago. So this is by no means all the changes. This is just some of the ones that he gave us. So starting from the top, Ethne, only 4 charges to her leader ability for the whole game. First glance, this is a nerf, obviously. But how bad is it? I've been reading a lot of posts, talked to a lot of people. A lot of people think this is a lot worse than it really is. It's not that bad. Yeah, if you look at it from a damage perspective, Ethne has 3 damage over 3 rounds, 9 damage, 9 down to 4. That's a lot. That's a huge nerf. That's more than half gone. Except it's not really like that because in a control Ethne deck, you don't play round 2 out. You're almost always dry passing, so you're really looking at round 1 and 3. So it's now 6 down to 4. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. If you're playing like an aggressive tempo elf deck, a lot of times you don't even use Ethne in round 1. If you do use Ethne in round 1, it's because you're lining up a Gigny, so you're pulling like a 5 down to a 4, or you're setting up Wolfsbane. We'll get it into Wolfsbane in a second, but Wolfsbane is no longer going to be in a Squirtle deck. Well, an elf deck. It might be in like an all-in control Squirtle deck, but it will no longer be in a heavy unit deck. So generally, you're going to be saving your Ethne for Gigny or Scorch. So yeah, it kind of sucks, but honestly, we kind of saw this coming. Ethne was too strong. It was pushing decks like NR or engine decks that normally needed engines to stay on the board. Ethne was kind of just dominating them. So it makes sense. One of the downsides to this change is Ethne was kind of the go-to leader in Squirtle. If you build a deck, no matter what it was, dragons, elves, dwarfs, whatever, your go-to was Ethne because it just added removal to your deck, which generally is pretty good. And you had carryover in round 1, 2, 3. So you can no longer do this. If you build a Squirtle deck and it's not super heavy on control, and when I say super heavy on control, I'm talking about cards like Scorch and Gigny. If you're not playing those 2 cards, you're probably not going to be playing Ethne, because if you can't utilize Ethne to her full potential, which is to line up to get these explosive point swings, she's going to be very underwhelming. 4 points in the entire game is terrible if you're not utilizing her. So you're going to see a lot more, maybe Brewer. Brewer is probably going to be what you're seeing. Maybe some Philavandrel. Honestly, I'm hoping that they buff Francesca from 2 mulligans to 3 mulligans. I would love to see that. Should be seen a little bit more, but we'll see. Moving on. Morvran, ability tweak. Obviously, they're going to have to nerf Morvran. The fact that he is 4 points, 3 to 4 points in 3 different rounds is kind of nuts, plus a lot of mulligans. What they will do to him, I don't know. We'll see. They could completely redo the ability. There's a number of things they could do. I'm not going to speculate because there's no point. We'll find out soon. Heimdall is being added to the game. Cool. Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt now only targets allies and has 2 charges, which boost by 3. So old Thunderbolt was 3 charges, each boost by 2, and you could boost your opponent's cards. I believe the original concept of this card was to keep your engines alive, but that's not what we saw it do. A lot of times you'd use this to set up like your epidemics or your scorch. They'd have like 3 4s and a 2. You'd push the 2 up to 4 and you'd epidemic, or they have 2 4s and like a 6 and you push the 4s up to 6 and scorch. Whatever the scenario, you would use Thunderbolt to set up cards, which was kind of cool, but very frustrating for your opponent because there wasn't really much counterplay for cards like Epidemic, Scorch, and Gigny, because you could always line it up with cards like Thunderbolt, Potion, and like Wyvern, Scale Shield, and Ethne. So I like the change. It is 8p. I think it is on the expensive side. I kind of hope they nerf it from 8p down to 7p, especially because if the idea is to keep engines alive, 8p is a little expensive for an engine deck. I don't think an engine deck can really afford to play this. So I'd like to see it get bumped from 8 down to 7. But I like the change. It's good. Wolfsbane targets all units, not only enemies. So I did a video maybe a week ago on Wolfsbane meta. Anything and everything that could utilize Wolfsbane was seeing Wolfsbane, because Wolfsbane was a nutty card that could get 10 to 20 power in a long round, which is absurd on an 8p card. So I like this change. It hits both sides of the board, so you could still see this card seeing play in maybe an Ethne deck that doesn't run a lot of units, maybe like an all artifact. I don't know how good that'll be, but in theory it could work. This will no longer be just like auto include in any kind of Ethne or Croc deck, so I like it. I like the change. It doesn't destroy the card, but it goes from absolutely broken to, okay, I actually have to think about putting a deck, building a deck around this. Xavier Lemens. Currently Xavier Lemens is 7p, 5 strength body. When you play it on the board, you banish your entire opponent's graveyard. Now it says cost up to 12 provisions and can banish only, or up to 3 cards. I don't know what the up to 12 provisions, I guess that means they don't really know the exact values. They're thinking a range between, I guess, 7 and 12. Personally, if it comes out at 12p and banishing 3 cards, it's unplayable. It's very simply, it's scrap. You take the card and you disenchant it because it will never see play at 12p. Xavier's not seeing play right now, and he's at 7p and he hits whole graveyard. I think they need to do one of two things. They need to take the first part of the nerf or the second part of the nerf. I mean, 12p is ridiculous, but I mean, fine. The effect is crazy. 12p, banish whole graveyard. Or they can do the banish 3 cards. I think even Xavier Lemens at 7p, getting rid of 3 units from the graveyard, I don't think that's good. But it's a tech card, right? So I think it would be playable in very specific metas. So I really hope they do that. I hope they keep him at 7 and banish 3 cards or up to 3 cards, because 12p is gutting the card. It's unplayable. Even if it still banished the entire graveyard, it would see 0 play. I mean, Lemens right now, in this meta right now, doesn't see play. I run into one maybe every 10, 20 games. In like 40, 50 games in a day, I see it maybe once or twice, and it has no impact on the game. So, yeah, I hope they don't completely gut the card, because let's say Bear SK. So Bear SK, where you populate your graveyard with lots of beasts, and you utilize Bear Master to make big Bear Master. This is where Xavier Lemens shines. Let's say that deck becomes popular. I'm not slotting in Xavier Lemens at 12p. There's no scenario where that's happening unless the meta is literally 50% Bear SK. But that will not happen. I'd rather play cards like Scorch or Gigny before I ever... I'd rather play Siphon Wily and banish the bears than run Xavier Lemens at 12p. 12p is unplayable. It's unplayable. Yeah, it's also good against big monsters, but I've played big monsters and been on the receiving end of Xavier Lemens. It's really not that bad. It kind of hurts, but usually you can play around it if you think your opponent's going to play it. So, honestly, I hope they just keep Xavier Lemens the way he is and make it banish up to 3 cards. Not the whole graveyard. I think that's fine. But nerfing the P cost is, I think, is incorrect. We'll also be introducing a quality of life improvement where you can right-click on your deck and see which cards are left in random order, of course. So this is phenomenal. This is by far the most exciting part about this entire patch, for me at least. Old Gwent, we had deck trackers like GwentDB or, not GwentDB, sorry, GwentUp or Gwent Tracker. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. But with the new homecoming, I think Bears mentioned something about third-party programs will not be able to keep track of decks, which was kind of sad. Kind of hinting that maybe there'll be their own deck tracker in game, and this is it. So now on the right-hand side of your game, you can click on your deck and it'll pop up and show you what's left. So this is awesome. I cannot wait. Console players rejoice. They're going to be excited because they never got trackers in the past. It does say in random order. Some people on stream were asking, well, why don't they like sort it by P cost or gold cost or whatever? Honestly, I don't think it's a big deal, simply because when you are checking your deck, what's left in your deck, you're usually doing it maybe in round 2 or round 3 when you have less cards in your deck. So you're really looking, okay, I have 2 golds and 7 bronzes. Is it worth taking a mulligan here to look for that 2 and 7? So I think it's fine. The problem is if they don't put it in a random order, people might think that they're top decking the card that's far like the top left card. and they'll get frustrated. So I think it's important that it's random, or very specifically says this is not in the correct order, or something along those lines. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really care how they do it. Just being able to see the rest of your deck is phenomenal. So I'm very happy about this. We're also thinking about adding armor to artifacts so units can remove them, but we won't be able to implement it by this December. Artifacts. There's a lot of controversy. I still think artifacts are problematic. They are still binary even after they got nerfed. I've had games where I'll queue like a monster control deck, and I'll play 2 artifacts, and my opponent will concede because they just don't want to play against it because it's frustrating. I think ways to interact with it could be interesting, like this. One of the problems with this type of thing is, well, one, artifact removal. You'd have to take them out of the game. You'd have to completely rework the card because artifacts won't be playable if they have durability or armor HP, whatever you want to call it, and artifact removal. But on top of that, if this does happen, it's going to incentivize people to be running more damage, which means engine decks are going to suffer more. So Ethne is kind of getting nerfed, and you're going to see less Ethne, which in theory means more engine decks. But if you make it so that artifacts are damageable and that's how you kill them, then people are going to be running more damage. So then those engine decks that in theory we're going to see more play will not see more play. So I kind of hope they don't do this. One interesting idea I saw was give it durability. Let's say it had 10 armor, and every time you used a ping off of the artifact, it lost a durability or it lost an armor. So let's say it has 10 armor and it's a spear. Let's say after 5 turns, you ping 5 times. It's down to 5 durability. Obviously, those numbers are just off the top of my head. But maybe that could work. Honestly, I think it's very hard to balance artifacts. It's a very tricky subject. If you think you have an interesting idea or a unique idea, let me know in the comments below. Because this is probably one of the more difficult things that CDPR has had to balance. Cards that were not mentioned here. I think the most obvious is Witchers. What is CDPR going to do about the Witcher trio? One of the reasons why the Witchers are seeing play in every single deck is because it's 12 points. And it's very consistent 12 points, right? You have to draw one of the 3 cards and you have the other 2. It's very accessible, very consistent. On top of that, it thins by 2 cards, which is obviously just good, especially in a game where there's a lot less consistency. So I really hope they do something about Witchers. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they completely gutted them and made them unplayable. I really wouldn't mind. The fact that they're auto-include in every deck is kind of frustrating. And the reason they're auto-include is because if your opponent plays 12 points with Witchers, maybe even 16 with Roach, and like a leader power like Crack or something, that's a lot of points. And generally you can't keep up with that unless you yourself are playing Witchers. So we're in this meta where if you don't play Witchers, you're going to be behind. You're going to fall behind. And you might not win that round without those Witchers. Also, we're getting to the point where you can never pass if you're within a 12-point reach of Witchers. So if you're only 11 points up, you can't pass because your opponent can just slap Witchers to catch up. And if they haven't played a gold, maybe they have Roach attached to it for 16. Which, I mean, it's... Yeah, I don't like it. So I hope they nerf Witchers. Personally, I wouldn't mind if they cut them down to 3. So if it was 9 points over, 7 each, so 21. They could honestly, I think, I don't know, would people auto-include Witchers if they were 3p each and they got the p cost bumped down to 6? Maybe. You're getting 9 for 18p. To compare, you can run a Unicorn or Chiron X that does 8 for 9. So you're getting 1 extra strength and 2 thin for 9p. Not great. I don't know. There's a number of ways they could do it. I've heard like make it 3-3-4 and keep it at 7p. Make it 2-3-4. There's a number of ways they could do it. I just don't want to see Witchers in every single game. It's kind of annoying. Yeah. Any other cards off the top of my head? Maybe a change to Siri and Siri Dash. The cards are really, really good. I guess they're not problematic yet, but I think people very much underestimate how good the cards are. I guess they don't need a nerf yet. Maybe in a month. They're 5 months once people start utilizing them more. But yeah, so this is what we've seen so far. I mean, we may or may not get more leaks between now and December 4th. Who knows? This is uncharted territory for both us and CDPR. If there's any other cards you would hope to see nerfed or buffed, I don't know if they're going to be doing buffs. That'll be interesting to see if they buff some leaders. Maybe X cards aren't seeing a lot of play time in games, so maybe they buff them up, give them a little boost to incentivize people to play them. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, if there's any cards you would like to see buffed or nerfed, let me know in the comments below. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.